GM, good morning. Welcome to the Milk Road Show, the daily crypto show that's hotter than a graphic card mining Bitcoin at full blast. I'm your host, Kyle Reedhead, taking the place of Jay, who's currently doing God knows what in New York City at his bachelor party. I don't even want to guess what he's up to. Actually, probably sleeping since it's Monday when we're recording. That's been a long weekend, I'm sure. But here to guide us is Lark Davis, OG crypto investor and content creator who's been educating millions of people about crypto since 2017. Today, we'll answer a question that's on everyone's mind, which is, have we hit the bottom or is there more pain ahead? For context, the crypto market cap hit $1.9 trillion yesterday, down from 2.7 trillion back in March. So it's been a little bit of pain out here. Lark, how's your bags doing? And what the heck is going on?
Well, my bags, rough ride, and anybody who's been in the market, rough ride. And that's something that's just par for the course of the crypto. I know we all
Yeah.
love upside volatility. You never even hear the word volatility when the markets are pumping, but that's upside volatility. Oh, as soon as the prices start going down, oh, volatility's back. No, volatility's always been here. That's why you're investing in crypto, because we love the upside. We just don't love the downside so much. So, yeah, look, portfolio has been taking some hits, obviously. Altcoins, especially, have been pretty wrecked recently.
Yeah.
But look, overall, I don't see anything that is particularly weird or out of cycle or new in the market. This is all just more of the same. This is what you can
Yeah.
expect basically to happen during a major market cycle. Go back and look at any previous cycle, and there's always huge drawdowns. There's always huge FUD events, whether it's China banning crypto or India banning crypto or gosh knows what. There's always something that freaks people out in the market and provides these kind of opportunities in the market.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to talk about the kind of like patterns of the cycle and where we think this is all going kind of at the end. But first, let's talk about these things that are kind of hurting the numbers right now, which you talked about. It's not anyone banning Bitcoin per se, but there's a lot of governments that are selling Bitcoin potentially. I think one of the big things is, I mean, Germany's obviously selling a bunch of Bitcoin at the moment, or it appears they may be. I've seen some tweets of they're actually buying Bitcoin too. So like, I don't know what's going on there. The U.S. may be selling some Bitcoin, and even Mount Gox. So maybe let's walk through some of those. What are you thinking through all these? Is it as bad as it seems? Like, what do you think?
As I've been saying, the bark is worse than the bite, right? The market is freaking out in anticipation of these events that are actually, if you boil down the numbers, holy cow, crypto has these markets are big. We have every potential to absorb the impact of these sales, but people are freaking out because of the sales, not really stopping to think like, hey, wait a second, didn't Bitcoin ETFs take in $15 billion of net inflows? Maybe we can absorb $3 billion of sell pressure from Germany. So people are kind of freaking out. But the good news is that huge amounts of German Bitcoin, if we're talking about the German Bitcoin specifically, there's multiple places where Bitcoin's coming from. Let's talk about the German Bitcoin. Germany has sent about 15,000, 16,000 Bitcoin in just today. So look, that's not all getting market dumped, but they're putting a lot of Bitcoin on, and the sooner it finishes, the better for everybody. So we will see that Bitcoin going very soon, and then it won't be a story anymore, and the market
Mm-hmm.
can absorb that. You know, the amount of Bitcoin, again, the amount of Bitcoin being sold here is not unabsorbable by the market. It's just that everyone's freaking out right now. Also, we did see this story going around from some, I don't know, C tier crypto news publication that Germany was buying Bitcoin. No,
Not
Germany
true.
just well, it's a story that lacks a large amount of veracity. Let's just say that.
Right.
Because in theory they could have bought. We don't know their exact buy sell orders on their exchanges, but what we do know is they deposited a bunch of Bitcoin to an exchange and later they withdrew Bitcoin from that same exchange. Likely it was the same Bitcoin, likely they were withdrawing that so they didn't take any sort of uh, risk over the weekend that the exchange gets hacked or something like that. So they just withdrew it back to their wallet and then redeposited it on
Interesting.
Monday. Right. So people like to spread rumors real fast in the cryptocurrency market, and you can see how rumor and narrative drives the market. Anyway, that's the German Bitcoin, 50,000 Bitcoin. Now they're down to 20,000 or something like that. So it's going fast. It will go fast, and then it'll be done. And then it'll be a non-story. And you just think back to, hey, remember that time in July when everybody was freaking out about the German Bitcoin stuff? Now we're at $100,000.
It looks like they got about 1.5 billion left. I don't know if this is live what I'm seeing on Arkham, but that's what I have up on the screen.
Yep. That I think
So
should be pretty current. So
yeah, do you think they're going to sell it all, or they're going to hold some, or what?
no, I think
No
they're going to
idea.
sell it all. I don't think
Get rid of it all.
Germany is not in the business of holding Bitcoin.
Yeah.
right? They're gonna sell it. They're gonna sell it for dirty, stinky fiat, which they can print themselves. It's a
Right.
nonsensical move, but this is what governments do. Now, the US government, let's talk about this. We've got a few different things
Yeah,
here.
they got 12 billion Bitcoin or $12 billion worth of Bitcoin. So a
Yeah,
little bit
well,
more.
a little bit more. However, I would like to point out that the majority of that Bitcoin is actually Bitfinex Bitcoin. Now, I don't know what's going to happen here because this is crazy to me. You see, the US Marshals or whatever, they caught the Bitfinex hackers and they recovered the Bitcoin. The vast majority of they spent a little bit of the Bitcoin. They got the vast majority of that Bitcoin back. So does that go back to Bitfinex at some point? Or is the US government just gonna dump it? Have they just stolen it from Bitfinex? Like, "Hey,
Yeah.
we found your stolen goods. That's ours now. We're stealing it from you."
Right.
I don't know if there's gonna be some court proceedings. That's customer money, right? It's not company money, it's customer money that was stolen. So whether or not that ever gets back to Bitfinex, I have no idea. But the Bitcoin that's being sold right now is the Silk Road Bitcoin. Did you
Right.
hear this story, by the way? This is crazy. So the guy, this Silk Road guy, he had 50,000 Bitcoins sitting in like a coffee can under his floorboards for years. Right?
What?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, they found the guy, they found the coffee can, they got the Bitcoin out. So they got this 50,000 Bitcoin they've been selling down. I don't know why these aren't going up to auctions or OTC deals and stuff like that. But what we do know is that, again, relatively nothing burger story because Coinbase has announced they're working with the US Marshals in order to help sell the Bitcoin, AKA it's going to be managed selling. So Coinbase has no
Mhm.
interest in nuking markets with a $3 or $4 billion market sell. They're not going to do that. They're going to manage that selling slowly, try to get the best price for the US government. And of course, Coinbase is the ETF custodian. So when ETFs come knocking and say, "Hey, we need another 1,000 Bitcoin today." Oh, look, we got 1,000 Bitcoin right here that we're going to sell OTC to you. So I think that's what's going to happen with a lot of the Silk Road Bitcoin. So again, a bit of a nothing burger here.
Yeah. And then the last one's Mount Gox. I mean, this one has been a rumor for years and years and years and years and years. It looks like maybe there's a little bit more to it this time around. What are your thoughts? Mount Gox is about 8 billion worth of Bitcoin. And there's rumors they're not selling, but they're refunding the customers. And then, maybe they're going to sell. Who knows?
Mt. Gox is finally happening. I've been talking about Mt. Gox, people getting their Bitcoin back since 2017. And actually, in 2017 or 2018, we did see the trustee sell some Bitcoin as the market was starting to turn over. That being said, still a huge amount of Bitcoin that will be returned to customers. I think it's about 140,000 Bitcoin, if I remember correctly, something like that. Anyway, but that Bitcoin is now activated. It's really happening. It's finally here. However, once again, rumor, innuendo is all a bit worse than the reality of the story. So a lot of this Bitcoin probably going to move OTC because a lot of funds bought a lot of the Bitcoin. About a third of it, I think, was been bought up. The claims been bought up. So those guys are not really interested in market dumping the Bitcoin unless they're agents of chaos or trying to short the market and stuff like that. But that's a risky bid for them. They have a lot of money invested here. They want to try and maximize returns. So they're probably going to look to sell OTC or do managed selling to get the best price instead of spooking the market. We also know that a lot of the people in Mount Gox happened a long, long time ago. Okay. And a lot of these people, they are OGs in the market. When they get their Bitcoin, it's not like the Mount Gox happened and they never touched Bitcoin ever again. Maybe there's a couple guys, right? And this is like a big payday
Yeah.
for them. But the majority of those Mount Gox people, Mount Gox happened. They said, well, that sucks. I better go buy some more Bitcoin somewhere else then. And so when they get this Bitcoin back, it's not going to be some giant, you know, 10,000% gain on their net worth or something overnight. It's going to be like, oh, well, I got some more Bitcoin. Great. So a lot of these guys may not even sell. Remember, these are the exit fiat crowd. These are the guys who've been diamond handing their Bitcoin for
Right.
10 years. Oh,
And
you're gonna
they've
tell
had
me
the
they're gonna
ability
they're
to
gonna panic
sell.
sell? Go ahead.
Right? They've had the ability to sell their claims previously as well, right? Some of them
Yeah,
anyway. So
exactly.
some of that selling has already actually happened.
Mhm.
And so I think people just don't really necessarily realize that. So look, there could be more selling, but is it this existential crisis? Like I don't think
No.
so.
One other thing I will mention here too is that it doesn't all happen at the same time. The Mt.
Right.
Gox Bitcoin is going to be distributed over months, right? Over months because different exchanges have different parameters for releasing the Bitcoin to their customers. So it's going to take a while. Okay. Not all that Bitcoin's hitting the market at one time. And what does hit the market is not necessarily going to be market sold. Okay.
Yeah. There's one more big seller out there, and that's miners, Bitcoin miners. You can see, I got a chart up on the screen here, and you can see for the last I mean, for the last while, they've been selling a ton. At least their reserves are down a lot. But I think
Mhm.
there's other charts showing that they've been selling a bunch. Kind of typical around the halving. Any thoughts around the miners and what they're doing?
It's all pretty much par for the course sort of stuff. Miners tend to sell into strength. We had huge strength around the ETFs. You can see huge selling started happening around that time. Now, I just want to point out for people, you see Bitcoin mine reserves like 1.8 million Bitcoin or something like that. Most of that's like Satoshi Bitcoin and stuff. So that's a bit of a funky way to look at the numbers.
Mm,
But active miner reserves are like tens of thousands of Bitcoin. And anyway, they've been selling down pretty hard recently, which is again normal. Bitcoin halving comes up. These guys need cash. They're a cash run business. Bitcoin mining businesses are not, ironically, Bitcoin hodling businesses. They mine and sell for cash, right? That's
right.
their primary goal as Bitcoin miners. So, look, the sell down, it's definitely had an impact on the market. Again, it's part of the narrative. Oh my gosh, Bitcoin miners are selling. Yeah, but Bitcoin miners always sell. And the thing with the Bitcoin halving is that we've just reduced their ability to dump on the market by half.
Right.
Okay. So we're seeing a capitulation right now with Bitcoin miners more broadly, where a lot of miners have become uncompetitive overnight when the Bitcoin halving happened. So these guys now have to sell Bitcoin. They have to buy new machines. They have to upgrade, and that's been going on for a while. But you see accelerated selling around the time of the halving, and of course, that combined with massive strength in the market from the ETFs. So the good news is, again, largely over. So not such a big deal anymore.
So, Lark, have we hit the bottom? What do you think?
Oh, that's a question, isn't it? Last chance to buy Bitcoin under 60K, guys. No, I don't know. Look, famous last words, right? The reality is nobody can know for certain. What I do know is that we had the biggest liquidation event since the FTX collapse. Generally, something like that signals a bottoming situation. We also see today Germany sent a huge amount of Bitcoin into exchanges and it didn't tank the markets. So, sentiment, buyers are here. Whales, that chart you just had up there was whales showing up and buying Bitcoin, right? So, there's always buyers out there, guys. Remember, again, that's why I say the bark is worse than the bite for this everything we're talking about today because buyers are out there. Mega whales have been stacking. A lot of that's market makers and stuff, but still, mega whales have been stacking. So when you look at all this together, I don't want to rush to say the bottom is in because there's still plenty of uncertainty in the market, right? We could come down and tap 52K or something or a high 40s. Like that's all possible, right? But I would say the risk reward ratio right now is highly in the favor of buyers. Let's put it that way, right? So if you're buying now, what's the maximum downside? You buy at 56, 57K, and oh no, it goes down to 52. But your upside potential, if we're talking specifically for Bitcoin right now, is 90 to 100K on the next big run up to the next major sort of milestone, let's say, in the market, potentially up to 215, $200,000 by the end of the market cycle. So where's your risk reward at? How are you thinking about markets right now? Because that's kind of the way I'm seeing it.
Yeah, agreed. And as we remember from Lark's episode last week, talked all about liquidity cycles, right? Liquidity cycles is what basically controls the markets, right? As more liquidity comes into markets, tech stocks go up, crypto goes up, real estate goes up, it all goes up. Any sort of scarce asset is going to go up. And I have a chart up on the screen here that I don't know if you saw this one, Lark, but you can see the S&P 500 and Bitcoin are sort of what's the word I'm looking for here? I got this out.
Diverging.
Diverging. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you can see that the S&P 500 and Bitcoin are sort of diverging in price, and they have been for the last, let's say, 30 days, maybe a little bit over 30 days. S&P 500 continues to go up and to the right. Bitcoin actually going down, and so generally you don't see that, or you do, and when you do see it, it's very short term, and then all of a sudden, whatever is lower tends to catch up, and so this. To me, as much as this looks bearish crypto, it's actually super bullish in my opinion, because if the rest of the markets are going up and up and up, it's only a matter of time until crypto just is like a springboard and just jumps back up and
Hmm.
reaches those levels, and probably not just reach those levels, but go much, much higher. So a chart like this to me is extremely bullish. Um,
Just think we have
I
the
don't know.
Ethereum ETFs coming in a few days. It's
Right.
wild. It's wild. I feel like the market's not priced that in at all. And that's going to be a massive liquidity injection event for the market. Look what happened when the Bitcoin ETFs came out. Except now it's Ethereum, and now it's going to roll down to Ethereum beta plays and altcoins more broadly, likely, hopefully, for my bags, right? But you're very, very right, is that we have this massive liquidity injection that has driven index is up massively. They're both at all-time highs. S&P 500, NASDAQ, they're at all-time highs. Bitcoin, because of these market-specific events, has been lagging behind, but it won't last forever.
Yeah, and I think ETH, Sol, all these others that are doing quite bad too. I mean, no one's selling ETH in terms of like governments and stuff like that. It's just when Bitcoin goes down, they also just have to go down. So like
Mhm.
it's pressure that isn't actually on them. So it's kind of a weird divergence there. I think like if you look at Solana right now, that it's just ready to just blow up. Once markets turn, this thing, it's stronger than hell right now. It's actually quite wild. Is there a catalyst though that you think is gonna, like, let's say, German government stops selling finally, they finish up. Mount Gox isn't so bad. US government, it's just Silk Road, it's not so bad. What's the catalyst? Is there one, or what are your thoughts on like what finally takes us to that next sort of level up in markets?
The catalysts already are all here. It's just we got to clear out the overhang from
Yeah.
this sort of Bitcoin and the narrative around that, really, because again, the market has the ability to absorb that. It's just that everyone's freaking out about it. Once we clear a lot of that out, people are
Mhm.
going to start realizing, oh, actually, the crypto markets haven't died, and this wasn't an extinction event for the crypto markets and all these sorts of things. We have all the positive wind in our sails right now. We have rate cuts coming outside of a recession, so that's very positive. We have huge money printing, huge liquidity going on globally. We have Ethereum ETFs coming. Solana ETFs have been filed. We're probably going to get those maybe later this year, early next year. They're going to come. Huge liquidity coming specifically for the cryptocurrency markets. Stablecoins going to start rising again massively soon. I've seen we've had an uptick recently with USDC printers going mad, hundreds of millions of dollars hitting the market. So it's all there. It's all there already. We only need more of it, and for this
Yeah.
fear event to clear itself out psychologically from the market.
Yeah. I had someone ask me this morning in my response to what's the catalyst for prices to go back up. It's just prices to go back up. Once
Yep.
prices go back up, that is the catalyst for more people to come into this space. He's like, what are we going to actually, how are we going to onboard the next, whatever, and that's going to take the markets to the next leg up. I was like, it's just the price. Once this overhang goes away, prices
Mhm.
will go back up, and then everyone will start fumbling back in. I mean, we're down what, 25% in Bitcoin or something like that, like somewhere around there. So we're going to revert back up once prices start to go back up. It's literally that simple. And the reason prices are going to go back up is because liquidity, right?
Yep.
Whether rates go down or not doesn't really matter, although they will go down. It's liquidity is coming because it's just part of the cycle. Now, speaking of cycles, let's sort of talk about these cycles. We touched on this a little bit, how there's always this FUD in the middle of cycles. And for those of you that are listening that are new, that haven't been in a cycle before, when we say cycle, it's these sort of 4-year cycles. Lark talked about them last week in terms of liquidity. Crypto markets, tech stocks, they all sort of follow this 4-year cycles. And I got it up on the chart here. If you're watching on YouTube, or I guess you can watch on Spotify as well. This is I've got a chart up now from the 2014 to the end of 2017 cycle. And what's interesting is if you look at where we're at in the current cycle right now with this pullback, it is almost identical to the last 2 cycles that we've had. And so real quick, if you can see on the screen here, from 2014 to 2015, we'll just look from year to year. It was down only. This was the bear market, right? A tough time. It was down only for exactly a year. And then from 2015 to 2016, it was like crypto did really well. Bitcoin went up, I think, more than double in that 1 year. That was like the year that pulled you out of the bear market. Then 2016 to 2017, it was a painful year. There was 2 really big pullbacks that were over, let's see, 200 days each. And one was 30% pullback, one was 40% pullback. So nothing like the pullbacks today. But we still ended up the year double what we were when we started, which is crazy. So painful year, but up. And then it was just like a face melting rip for the next year, 2017 to 2018. And then if you look at the next chart here, this is last cycle. Most of you listening were here last cycle. And again, 2018, 2019, down only. 2019, 2020, pull yourselves out of the bear market, really good year. 2020 to 2021, a hell of a painful year with massive pullbacks that were super, super long, but we ended up the year way up. And then 2021, a face melting rip for an entire year. And then the same thing, 2022, 1 year down only. 2023, pulling us out of the bear market, and we did really well. 2024, the year we're in now. So far, it's been a great year, but a bit painful because we've been down since March. But in my opinion, we end up this year, ahead, even though it might be a long pullback. We're already at, I don't know, 120 days or something like that. So yeah, it's tough, but we're only down 24, 25%, nothing versus all the other ones. And then we've got 2025 to look forward to, which is where Lark just said, Bitcoin maybe to 200K, something along those lines. So like, if you just zoom out and look at past cycles, again, we're just following liquidity cycles here. we're just doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing. And the FUD in between and that one painful year that still does well is just always different. Sometimes it's India and China banning. Sometimes it's Mt. Gox. Almost always it's Mt. Gox selling, Germany selling, etc. So what are your thoughts here? And do you have anything you want to add to this sort of cycles?
The Bitcoin 4-year cycle has been my base case for this market cycle. And I know when Bitcoin hit its new high at 74K, everybody said, well, left translated cycle, this time is different. No, things are always a little bit different, but you have to
Right.
look at the big picture here. Bitcoin halving, post Bitcoin halving scenario, global liquidity cycles, those move in approximate 4-year cycles. Global liquidity cycle just starting. Going to see a massive run up over the next year, year and a half, whatever, until we see the liquidity cycle top out. Then you need to get the heck out of markets, run away really fast, and sell everything. Now, what's interesting is the squiggly line you have on the chart here. It comes up to a very fascinating level because if you go back and you start drawing some Fibonacci retracements across the charts here, you'll find that 3.618 line is going to come up to about $215,000, and that's a very interesting level because last cycle that the 3.618 line was around like $65,000. So we went a little bit above it. What's crazy though is that the 3.618 line for Ethereum, it came within a few dollars. A few dollars. It was that close. And that, that's predictive in advance, right? So you go back and you draw that from the 2017 market top to the market bottom in 2020. And it's very interesting, isn't it? Very interesting how we get those numbers. Anyway, that's $215,000. That's late next year sometime. Fingers crossed, of course, that is the number that we end up getting. Markets are chaos and nobody has a crystal ball, right? We can only base our models on how we understand things to work and the cycles as they work. But we are entering this massive liquidity phase in the market. And that liquidity phase is just beginning. And it's not going to be up only. It's going to be a lot of this, right? So prepare for this to happen again, potentially multiple times between now and whenever an eventual top comes into the market. And it could be earlier than people think. It could be later than people think. But my base case has been sometime in probably late 2025. Could become a little bit earlier. Maybe it comes in summer or something like that. But sometime in 2025, that's probably when we're getting our market top.
It's funny, we say that it's going to end at, 215K, whatever it is. And we've been saying this. I mean, I've seen you saying this on your channel for, since the bear market. I've been saying this as well. We're going to have another typical cycle. And so people see that, oh, it's going to go to 210K or, E's going to go to 10K. And I think they just think it just goes straight up and to the right. And I think both you and I have been saying there's going to be many pullbacks along the way. But when you get in a pullback like this, it's a bit scary, especially when people have a lot of money in it.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to expect it. Like, we're going to come out of this pullback probably pretty soon, according to what Lark thinks. And when we do, we're kind of on our way up to the numbers that we've been talking about. But as you can see from my squiggly lines here, with my beautiful drawings, put a lot of time and effort into them. It's not a straight line. We're going to have a bunch more pullbacks, and honestly, a 25% pullback is tiny. Now, this one's a little bit long, I guess, but not that bad. But we're going to have probably a 30%, maybe a 40% at some point. Now, it might be quick, it might be just a couple weeks in length. Who knows? We don't know. We're going to have short ones. We're going to have long ones. We're going to have steep ones. We're going to have aggressive ones and not so aggressive. But we're going to have a bunch. We had, I think, 10 or 11 pullbacks of more than 20% last cycle, and then like 13 the cycle before that. So it's part of the game. As you said, if you want the volatility to the upside, you got to play with that volatility to the downside. It's just, that's the way volatility works. Lark, as we wrap up here, any final advice? What do you suggest right now, as we're sitting here with Bitcoin? I don't know what we're at, but around 57, 58 or something like that, maybe even lower. Any thoughts to the listeners on what they should be doing?
Yeah, just a thought here is that you don't need to rush in these markets. There's always this sort of, I have to do things really, really fast, and that tends to get people in trouble. Take your time. Okay. There's always opportunities in this market. As you see right now, there's always opportunities in this market. And you don't have to rush in right now. For example, we're waiting for the market to establish strength. At the time that we're recording this, we're testing the 200-day exponential moving average. We may just be looking at bearish retest, and we could come back down to 52K or something like that. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. But I know that a breakout beyond the 200-day EMA is going to be a signal of strength in the market. And once the big one that we're looking for, the big one, right? And so it all depends on what you're doing. Are you just stacking for the long term? Are you looking to do directional trades? Because the big move, I think, comes when we breach 72K. That's been the major area of price resistance. We've had 5 tests of that, failed every one. When we break over 72K, that's when we get the fireworks that's going to move up to that sort of 90 to 100K range, which I think will be the next market cycle local top before another major correction. We grind up, do all this again, basically.
Actually, I think one of our future episodes with you, Lark, I want to talk about what happens next cycle. Do we have another typical cycle? I'm starting to debate, like, do we have another huge sell-off in this like long bear market again? We won't talk about it today, but I think we'll have to have that chat in the future, because at some point these cycles need to change. You can't just have this literally always. Although for as long as they do, take advantage of them, because like the fact that this industry goes down 80% every 4 years and you just get an opportunity to like rebuy in at all this at such a low price is absolutely wild. So anyway, don't get knocked off the horse right here. The trend is up over the next 12 to 18 months. Don't let these pullbacks knock you off the trend. Stick on it. But that's all for today, folks. Thanks so much for listening in. Lark, thanks so much for joining. Everyone have a wicked awesome day.
Thank you for listening to Milk Road Radio, the easiest path to get smarter about crypto. If you like this episode, share it and hit subscribe or follow so you don't miss out on the next one. There's also a link in the description to our free 5-minute daily newsletter where we simplify crypto for you while making you laugh. And if you're willing to step up your crypto investing game, then we'll leave a link to Milk Road Pro as well, your #1 resource to help you invest successfully in crypto. One final note, this podcast is for educational purposes only, and nothing we say is financial advice. Crypto is risky, so you should never invest more than you're willing to lose. Thank you, friends, and we'll see you in the next one.